Hi everybody, I'm Jack the Rambling Raconteur. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. I hope it's a great one. And this is going to be another one of my favorite first-time reading experiences in 2020 videos. This one's going to focus on nonfiction and poetry with a single volume that sort of bridges those two genres. They are distinct both in my reading and for many others I know. And these were all really interesting or enjoyable reads. They got into my headspace, they got into my heart space, and I'll link all the appropriate videos where I discuss these at more length in the description box in case you're interested. I'll also link my favorite nonfiction and poetry first-time reads from 2019 that I made a year ago. Please be merciful. I think that was like the third video I did and helped launch this channel. So, kicking us off, Boswell's London Journal. Boswell's pretty much a terrible person, but he remembers everything with wit and not necessarily with himself in the best light. This was a fascinating read. This was the first time I had read the entire London Journal, like cover to cover, in sort of a continuous reading experience. I'd read passages from it. I had read large portions of it over like multiple year gaps. So this was interesting to read. I actually have a couple of the other volumes here, so I might do Boswell and Holland this year. I'm not sure yet. Another one, this one was sort of a like a personal summit that I felt I had reached, and that would be Platos Theater, sort of a what is knowledge, this incredible dialogue. In my mind, one of the most complex Platonic dialogues I've ever read, and I kind of knew that. I had held off. I've had this volume for several years, but I've held off on reading it because I wanted to really ground myself in enough of Plato's thinking and in sort of the pre-Socratics, like the Greek sophists and some of, even the pre-sophist Greek philosophers, to sort of understand what on earth Plato was getting at in this, because I knew how complex it was. And I really enjoyed it. I will be doing a comparison between the Apologia of Socrates from Plato and Xenophon probably in the next week. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And I may do Parmenides this year. We'll see. That's sort of like the Everest of my Plato dialogues. On a more somber note, I was rereading some of the slave narratives, and I reread the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, the 1845 one, sort of the first one. And what a passionate and intelligent, work, and really just his intelligence and his humanity, but also his way, and it sort of bridges from Plato and Aristotle, his way of, centering his attacks on not just the inhumanity of slavery, but on how illogical, it wasn't just unethical, it was also illogical, and he just tearing into those arguments, just a brilliant reading experience, and very timely. As was, and I haven't quite finished this, but I've read most of it, so I'm including it, The Reporting Civil Rights of Part 1, that spans like 1940, so pre-World War II, all the way up to 1963. And this has just been an eye-opener. Sometimes it's been remembering or relearning history, but in other times it's been an eye-opener, and I've really appreciated what this volume does. I highly recommend it. It's from the Library of America. I picked it up in February, and fantastic. And then this was great, and it was a great reading experience with what I did. And that was the Introduction to the New Testament by Raymond Brown. And what I did was, across from January through, I think it was June or July, I can't quite remember which, I would read the books of the New Testament that Brown was going to be having his chapters on, and then I would read the corresponding chapters from this book. And so it was like a multi-month reading experience of really diving into the New Testament, diving into New Testament scholarship, and I loved doing that. I'm doing the same with the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible and Jack Miles's God, a Biography, which is very, very different from Brown's work, but I'm doing that here in 2021. And now, the last piece of nonfiction that bridges to poetry would be Poets in a Landscape by Gilbert Hayes, and I loved this. This brought home so many interesting facets of Roman poetry. And I fell in love with poets I fell in love again with poets I already loved. I learned some stuff about poets I had never read, like Tibullus. And then, it ignited so many fires in my mind and in my heart. And that leads me to what was one of my single favorite reading experiences of this past year, and that was Ovid's Metamorphoses. I try to read one epic every year. I think this year it's going to be the Iliad by Homer in June. And I might break that up and do like multiple videos if folks are interested, and like reading it with me. But I read the Metamorphoses by Ovid for the first time, like cover to cover, and this is amazing, and one of my favorite books. I've loved the Amores of Ovid, and this just so many new fun little ways to explore love and humanity and just the way we view ourselves and myths and our relationships, which are just fascinating. Another one, a slim volume, was Poems of the Late Ta'an. And so this is Chinese poetry from the 8th and 9th century. And I really enjoyed each of these. The translations were extremely easy to read, and they seemed poetic. And I don't know how accurate they were, but they certainly seemed poetic. And the notes were very helpful as well. It's a great volume. I believe NYRB Classics has done a reprint of this, even with like this specific translation by A.C. Graham. And that leads me to my NYRB Classics. This was a Christmas gift in 2019 from my wife. It's Pronza, an anthology of troubadour poetry. And it's medieval French poetry, but not written originally in French, but written in, I believe Occitan. It is absolutely amazing. It's translated by Paul Blackburn. There are some notes in it, but I mean, it's just a really, really amazing anthology, and sort of recapturing what was what was a language that there were fewer and fewer readers and speakers, and Blackburn went and recaptured this for English readers and for an English audience. And then the last one that I read, this was in the fall, and I really got into it. It started as a reading experience with my kids, and then gradually I just kind of sat down and read through the entire volume, and that was the Tamarind Devon by Federico Garcia Lorca, and I loved it. I loved that volume as well. So those were my favorite nonfiction and poetry first-time reading experiences across the past year. Let me know if you've read any of those. Feel free to check out the videos. If you have any recommendations based on what I just shared, please let me know. And again, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well. Thank you.